Okay, so the eastern bays and the western rainwater basins were not created by glacial winds and water. Check. The shape, the structure, and the orientation all point to a possible impact into an ice sheet over the Great Lakes region. Check, check, check. So let's look at the plausible explanations for how these things could have formed, and we'll start with probability number one, which is probably the most popular explanation. This one is put out by a Mr. Antonio Zamora, who many of you already know. Now, Mr. Zamora's hypothesis is that there was a physical impact into the Laurentide ice sheet at the Younger Dryas boundary, and it was the ejected ice boulders that were launched from the impact site. They reached the vacuum of space and then came back down all across the region that we now see, the Carolina Bays and the Nebraska rainwater basins and all the rest. Now, some really important parts of Antonio's hypothesis is that this icy ejecta would have been huge boulders of solid ice, some the size of athletic stadiums, that would have been launched, and as they landed into the ground, they would have formed a conic section, which ended up creating the elliptical shapes that we see today. Viscous relaxation from the shock of the ground, from the earthquakes that would have been caused from this impact, from these secondary impacts, would have helped maintain that shape of an ellipse, which is a cross section of a conic section. Now, when it comes to evidence for Antonio's hypothesis, he starts with the Younger Dryas. The Younger Dryas, we're finding a tremendous amount of evidence that there was some form of a cosmic event that happened 12,800 and something years ago, and things like the platinum layers, the microspherules, and we're finding these all over the world. It's not just centered in North America. However, the main part of this impact would have been in North America, and Antonio thinks that an impact into the ice sheet over the Great Lakes region would have been part of this event. So, the black mat layer is important for his hypothesis. Again, that platinum layer. There is a 10% biomass burn that occurred during this time. So like I said, there's a tremendous amount of evidence for there being an impact. Antonio's linking that evidence to the Carolina Bay creation. And it's not unfounded. As a matter of fact, in Firestone's 2007 paper, they originally included the Carolina Bays in that paper, which was eventually removed because of some of the members of the Comet Research Group and some of the members that were on that paper had issue with it. And so they said, we don't need it. Let's go ahead and just take it out. And they did. And it was never really put back in. The megafaunal extinction at the end of the last ice age is another line of evidence that Antonio uses to support his hypothesis. It's looking more and more like Clovis hunters weren't the primary cause of the extinction of 73% of all of the mega mammals in North America, including themselves. I know there's a lot of people that will nitpick that the Clovis people didn't go extinct, but their culture certainly did. The culture of the people that were around 12,000, 13,000 years ago stopped and picked back up in other forms later on. So whatever took out the megafauna likely, took out the Clovis as well, at least as a culture. And then he also cites the megafloods, the evidence for megafloods that we're finding across North America. There obviously was a meltwater event. It wasn't one of the big meltwater events. It wasn't part of Meltwater Pulse 1A or 1B, but we do see a sudden influx of fresh water into the North Atlantic at the Younger Dryas boundary. That's the known cause of the Younger Dryas was a sudden influx of fresh water into the North Atlantic that disrupted the Gulf Stream and caused us to go back into an ice age for 1,200 years. And so again, where did that water come from? Again, Tony thinks that this was part of this event. Whatever happened at that time also created the Carolina Bays. So anyways, you know, Antonio Zamora has put in a lot of time. He's written a couple books on this topic. I highly suggest you guys check them out on Amazon. They're not very expensive. They're pretty quick and easy read. He's published a paper on this that's still out there today. He's also been doing a tremendous amount of physics work surrounding his impact hypothesis. He's been using things like the least square method to prove that a mass majority of the Carolina Bays and Nebraska rainwater basins are in fact perfect ellipses. That's an important part of this hypothesis. He's been putting in a lot of time, and for a long time I was 100% on board with Antonio. I just thought that this was the most plausible explanation for the younger Dryas and the Carolina Bays, and all the things that were mentioned here. So but it's not the only probability. There are other ideas out there, and we're going to look at another one of those coming up next. And we have to keep in mind that when it comes to science, it's not a popularity contest. I know that's hard to swallow sometimes. I had a hard time swallowing that pill. But there are other ideas out there. I want to present those for you as well, and then when we're done, we'll kind of look at all of it together and see where it stands. So there you have it. Probability number one for the creation of the Carolina Bays: an impact into an ice sheet, ejecting massive ice boulders into suborbit and then they crash back down into the areas that we find the Carolina Bays and the Nebraska rainwater basins today. And this would have happened at the younger Dryas boundary. And when we come back, we will look at another probability. So we'll see you then. Bye.